Some days the news it hits different. Today, we've got a handcuffed fugitive leaping out of a Bavarian courthouse like it's an action movie. German lawmakers quietly pocketing another raise while a 122-year-old bakery crumbles. Tourists running away from America. And then there's what's happening in the Middle East right now. And I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this a long time, and this one made me pause. We're saving that for the end, because you need to hear everything that leads up to it first. But before we get into all of this, I want to ask you something. If this kind of reporting matters to you, the kind where we actually dig into the facts, cross-reference sources, and refuse to just parrot whatever the official line is, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. And if you really want to keep this work going, consider using the Super Thanks feature or sponsoring the channel directly. This isn't a big corporation behind me. It's research, it's hours of fact-checking, it's making sure we don't spread garbage. That takes resources, and your support is what makes it possible. All right, stay with me through this one, because what's coming at the end, you don't want to miss it. Let's start in Bavaria. The city of Passau, to be specific. A 22-year-old man named Hassan was in court in handcuffs after a judge issued an arrest warrant for aggravated criminal offenses, and somehow, he just ran right out of the courthouse. In handcuffs, police scrambled everything they had, helicopters, ground units, the full package. They're now warning residents not to pick up hitchhikers because this individual is considered extremely dangerous. Think about that for a second. A man in handcuffs escapes from inside a courthouse. That's not a security failure. That's almost performance art. Bavarian police understandably did not find it funny. But you have to wonder, how does that even happen? What were the protocols? Who was watching? These are the questions nobody in an official statement is going to answer, but someone should be asking them. Now let's shift to something with far bigger implications. Germany's foreign ministry has issued a strong advisory against travel to Israel. Not a suggestion, not a gentle nudge. When the foreign ministry says strongly advises against, that's diplomatic code for don't even think about it. Berlin has convened a crisis team at the foreign ministry building, and they're in constant contact with embassies in Iran, Israel, and across the region. Keep that in the back of your mind, because we're going to circle back to why this is happening. The picture is going to get much clearer and much more unsettling as we go. Here's one that might make your blood pressure tick up a little. Starting July 1st, 2026, members of the German Bundestag will receive a pay raise of €497 per month. Automatic. No vote needed. It's pegged to the average nominal wage growth, just over 4%. And this is the third significant raise since 2022. Now look, I get the mechanism. Index it to average wages sounds fair on paper. But here's the thing. For ordinary Germans dealing with rising costs, energy bills that keep climbing, groceries that keep getting more expensive, watching their elected representatives get an automatic bump while they struggle to keep the lights on, it doesn't sit right. The system works, sure. The question is, who exactly does it work for? If you've got thoughts on that, drop them in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what you think. And speaking of keeping the lights on, let me tell you about a bakery in Karlsruhe. A family bakery in the state of Baden-Württemberg that had been operating since 1904, 122 years. Think about what that means. This place survived 2 world wars. It survived economic collapses, political upheavals, everything the 20th century could throw at it. And now it's filing for bankruptcy. The reasons? Skyrocketing energy prices, raw material costs through the roof, and a labor shortage that just won't quit. All 19 locations are still open for now. 200 employees have been guaranteed wages through April, funded by government support programs. The owners are working with specialists on a rescue plan, but let's be real, nobody is talking about thriving anymore. They're talking about survival, a century and a quarter of baking bread, ended not by war, not by revolution, but by an electricity bill in 2026. If that doesn't tell you something about where Europe's economy is headed, I don't know what does. Now here's a trend that should make Washington pay attention, but probably won't. German tourists are abandoning the United States. Germany's Tourism Association is reporting double-digit declines in bookings for trips to America. And the reasons are telling. Fear of strict entry measures, political tensions, rising costs. The experts are blunt about it. The United States has simply become a less attractive destination for German travelers. People are scared to go. And here's the irony that just writes itself. The whole idea was to make America great again, right? Well, instead of great, it's become frightening. at least to tourists. That's a result too, just maybe not the one anyone was hoping for. But what most people miss is how these economic signals ripple outward. Tourism revenue, cultural exchange, soft power, it all erodes quietly. And by the time you notice, the damage is already done. Let's move to Berlin now. A large-scale rally called Freedom for Iran took place at the Brandenburg Gate. Organizers initially expected around 3,000 participants, but police anticipated even more and deployed roughly 300 officers plus reserves. The march headed toward the U.S. Embassy. Jewish, American, and Iranian institutions across the city were placed under heightened security with measures maxed out, and there's something almost poetic and tragic about this. Berlin is protesting for Iran's freedom, while Iran itself is trying to figure out how to survive the next 24 hours. Hold that thought, because what comes next explains exactly why. Here's where things get very serious, and I need you to really listen. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced the launch of a joint military operation with the United States against Iran. The code name is Roaring Lion. The stated objective is to eliminate the threat posed by the Iranian regime and to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. Netanyahu called on Israeli citizens to show resilience. He thanked Trump for, and I'm quoting here, historic leadership, and called Americans brothers and sisters. He emphasized that the operation should create conditions for regime change in Iran. The Israel Defense Forces called up 70,000 reservists. President Isaac Herzog backed the operation, and the National Security Council urged all Israelis abroad to take heightened precautions. When the operation's name speaks louder than any diplomatic statement, you know diplomacy has left the room. This is not a drill, this is not posturing, this is a new chapter, and the consequences are going to reshape the region for years to come. And then came Trump's message. The President of the United States addressed the people of Iran directly, calling this their once-in-a-generation chance. He urged them to take your government under control once military operations conclude. His exact words, and listen to these carefully, the hour of your freedom has arrived. Stay in shelter. Do not leave your homes. When we are finished, take your government under control. Freedom, American style, first the strikes, then the offer to take power. Just make sure you don't step outside while freedom is being delivered. Meanwhile, the son of the deposed Shah, Reza Pahlavi, living in the United States, declared himself ready to lead Iran. His actual support inside the country, unknown. Trump himself called him a good guy, but expressed doubts about his capabilities. So we have a military operation, a call for revolution, and a would-be leader whose popular backing is a question mark. If you're wondering how this plays out, honestly, so am I. But the patterns here are familiar, and they rarely end cleanly. And the fallout is already spreading across the skies, literally. Airlines are scrambling. Lufthansa has cancelled flights to Tel Aviv, Tehran, Amman, Beirut, and Erbil through March 7th, and suspended Dubai flights for February 28th and March 1st. Airspace is closed not just over Iran and Israel, but over the UAE and Qatar as well. In Dubai, there are miles-long traffic jams of cars trying to leave the city. Let that sink in. When Dubai, one of the most stable and insulated places in the Gulf, when people there are lining up to get out, you know the situation across the Middle East has crossed into genuinely dangerous territory. And this is the part I kept for last, because it's not just about one operation, one statement, one cancelled flight. It's about what happens when all of these threads pull at the same time. A continent struggling with its economy, a superpower projecting force, a region on the edge, and ordinary people everywhere, from Karlsruhe to Dubai, just trying to figure out what comes next. The question isn't whether this changes things. It already has. The question is whether anyone in power is thinking about what comes after, because from where I'm sitting, that answer is far from clear. Every like, every comment, every share, it's not just a number on a screen. It's how YouTube decides whether this video reaches 10 people or 10,000. The algorithm is simple. Engagement tells it this matters, and then it shows it to more viewers who need to hear it. So if anything in today's episode made you think, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what story hit hardest. I read them. I really do. And if you believe that independent reporting, the kind built on real research, source verification, and hours of fact-checking, if you believe that still has a place in this world, consider subscribing or supporting through super thanks or a channel sponsorship. There's no corporate budget behind this, no editorial board telling me what to say or what to skip. It's just the work. And it's your support that keeps it honest and keeps it going. We're not just building a channel here, we're building something that doesn't answer to anyone except the truth and the people who care about it. That's you, and I don't take that for granted. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.